I just try to switch to Texas because I'm in Texas. Okay. Hopefully this time it doesn't crash.
Whoop, back in. So I guess without further ado, what I would think personally a smart type price point would be something around the €15 mark. But I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Certainly I don't see this ever needing to get to a full retail price.
Oh well. I just found what looks like a rocket launcher. Is that in the game?
Yeah, it is.
Should I totally shoot
It's
this
a
off?
very rare spawn. I'm not sure you'll have a rocket for it though.
Oh no. Let's try this. Well, I don't want to waste the ammo if I do have some. Maybe I'll shoot Robert.
I'm sure he'll love that.
After he gives it to me, I shoot him with it. That'd be lovely.
Is that Jerry Hopper? He's like a celebrity from the Armorverse.
Oh, is he?
I think he's in the chat. You got a celebrity in the chat there. He's asked about retail price. Look, I mean, I'm just spitballing. I'm just coming up with figures with no real weight behind them at all. But I just, personally, I don't see necessarily the need for something like this to become a full retail price. It's kind of a grassroots type thing. You look at Minecraft; it never needed to as well.
Okay, so I have another question from FPS Guru, and it's Redempt, who asked it. When are you going to drop the Hive server? The reason I ask this is because this mod could literally explode like Minecraft if you let the server owners operate their own server and cut this Hive nonsense.
Oh, we're getting into some good questions now, a little bit of controversy, I love it. So, it's a good question, it's a relevant question. I guess there's a few reasons for the central server. One of them is we gather a lot of data, and data is really important to this because you can have hundreds of people come onto the forums and say how terrible something is, but often people go onto the forums and say, wow, I really like this. And to a certain extent, the data doesn't lie. So the data gives us all the information we need, and when you've got hundreds of thousands of people playing it in a 24-hour period, having that data is really useful, and you really can't put a value on that. Other projects, they don't have that unless they get hundreds of thousands of people in their betas. So that's one reason why the Hive's really important. Also, what I really want to do here is do something more like Eve, but with its own, obviously, zombie-type universe. So if we do that, we need to have a central server. And even if we could make it infinitely more popular by breaking it up and making it little servers, I think a lot of mods and other games have kind of done that experience. I think Left 4 Dead's done that pretty well. This is a chance to take a serious look at a proper open world survival game. Uh-oh.
Oh no, he just died. Or he fell. I can't tell which. Did the streams end again?
Oh, no, stream's up.
Oh. Oh, you were watching it and you saw that.
Yeah, I was just shocked. I was like, oh my god, he's down.
It wasn't me, I hope. We just attracted every zombie in the area is all. That zombie looked like it was doing a dance for a second.
I think the one thing, I see there's a lot of questions like about what features would be in and things like that. I think one thing I want to avoid is putting out lists of features because it's really good to discuss what might be in it. Definitely.
Oh, it needs a bandage.
I think you need to click continue there. Oh, yeah. It's really good to, there's a big difference between having a discussion and considering different options and putting out a list of features and saying this is going to be in. I don't like announcing anything until it's actually tested or at least fairly well tested and confirmed that we can do it. And we have to focus on the basics, like people are saying, the zombies. We have to get the zombies right. We have to get the group play and those types of gameplay stuff We have to get that sorted. So once we've got that done, and inventory, all those key basic things sorted, then we can start to get really ambitious with the project.
Okay, so Pirate LV asks, would it be possible to add an option where upon death the player could reanimate as a zombie and play that way until permanently killed?
Well, I guess that's a whole new different type of gameplay. Obviously, there's a lot of people that want it, but it really is something that really will require a lot of thought and a lot of design with it. And that is a bit of a problem because we'd have to focus a lot of effort on figuring it out. I'm not saying it's not something we could do, but it's really certainly not in the focus at the moment. The focus is on the survivors. And how do they survive that initial DayZ experience, and then how do they thrive? At the moment, we've got that survival bit kind of working. What we need to do is get the thriving bit, and that's where I want to expand the construction and that sort of stuff. If we wanted to introduce players acting as zombies, we'd really have to think about that a lot and develop a lot of tech and more animations and stuff like that around it.
This might be a silly question, but it is something that even I would be curious about. And Emil asks, are you planning on adding a button that says, are you sure, when you click respawn?
Actually, I'm thinking of getting rid of the respawn button and at a number of people's request putting in a suicide animation. I'm just a little worried about what it'll do to rating systems and things like that. So I need to look at what effect that would have on the video game ratings. But we've got an animation for it, so it could be easily done. So having it as an action on your rifle in game, so actually blanking out the abort button, so the respawn button, so you can't even press it. So if you want to commit suicide, you've actually got to have a bullet to do it. A lot of people have requested that, including people from Bohemian Marketing. So.
I just know I'm the kind of person that always doesn't think before they click a button, and then bad things happen. Like, I've accidentally deleted characters in MMOs. And they even not only does it have like the "Are you sure," but you have to click the name, like put the name in some. Oh man, it's bad. But let's see.
Look, someone's asked, and I think it's a relevant question. Any idea when the standalone could be released? This experiment has gone really well. We've got a lot of data. We've got a very good idea of what works and what doesn't. Obviously, it's very frustrating to people because they're not necessarily seeing a lot of progress on issues. But we have to divide between stuff that can be done with the mod and stuff that can be done with the game. There's no sense putting a lot of effort into issues that can be done very easily in the mod, very easily in the standalone game, and spending ages doing them in the mod. So there's a lot of things we know we can do really quickly when we go standalone. I think that there's no reason why we shouldn't have something by the end of the year.
Someone commented that Clint Beast Mode said that surviving is too easy, there's too much food and water, and zombies aren't that dangerous. Would you agree, or what are your thoughts on this? I personally think that if you're on a decently populated server, it's not that easy to survive.
Yeah, I think it's a question of balance. And balance is always going to be difficult. The minute you change something, like let's take, for example, let's say that we fix the issue with zombie pathfinding and zombie speed. That's instantly going to affect the balance. In order to ramp that up, we might need to add more zombies, which means we have to get the performance sorted and all that kinds of stuff. So there's all these variables, and the minute you change one of them, all the other variables change. So it's a balance issue, and that's just good game design, which not necessarily a strong point of this project at the moment, but I think that's something we can reasonably easily fix in the project structure when it goes, I guess, pro.
Runda and Renzo asked, do you think you'll expand the map to where we have more running room and more places to explore?
Look, expanding the map is a definite goal. I think finding out ways to expand the universe is something that interests me a bit more. So, like, that the underground type stuff really fascinates me. Like, one of my huge inspirations is XCOM. In fact, I made Matt, who does our ops management, I made him play XCOM today. He had to install it, and he laughed at the music. But so for me, base building and construction, those kinds of things, digging, all that kind of stuff, that's pretty important to me. The ability for the players to change the world. So I think that allows a bit more exploring. Then if we can introduce new regions, new places to go, fly from one island to another, all that kinds of stuff, I think that opens a lot of doors and a lot of options. And the engine's very supportive of that.
One thing I noticed about this when playing is sometimes the range that these zombies see you from is extremely far away. Like there's been times I hadn't even seen the zombie and I would aggro him and I would see him when he started running at me, but do you plan on basically making the range a little bit smaller or keeping it as is? Is it as designed?
Sorry. Yeah, so the zombie range is something I tweaked a lot in the last patch. So I started to introduce probability. I kind of screwed up hearing as a result of that, which is fixed in the next hot fix, I might add. So that needs some playing with a bit. So the idea is that the further they can see and the closer you are, the more likely they are to spot you, which kind of fits with real life a bit more, and it makes it more fluid. And I think definitely the feedback on the latest update has been positive for the most part, i.e. this isn't perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. So we just need to continually play with that a bit more and find the sweet spot. And every time we change and develop and come up with new stuff, we're going to have to do that again. I was just getting a drink.
So someone was asking, will doors stop zombies, and will they no longer continue to walk through the doorways?
Well, I guess I'll answer that by putting things in perspective a bit. So DayZ's based on this hardcore military simulator. It was designed for outside combat, so it hasn't really had a lot of focus on interiors. With a bunch of smart people, we could fix that issue. It's not something that can be fixed in the game as a mod. It would be something that would have to be dealt with as a standalone.
What server am I on? I am not going to answer that. I do not want people coming and finding me. I've already experienced that. It was horrible.
If maybe we could deal with that question as well, because I'm sure people get upset when we run private servers for streams. It's hard enough to get everything set up without having all sorts of other problems, and also having a lot of people on the server causes issues with streaming and that sort of stuff. So before people get too upset, like we've just found it's just too difficult to run stream type interviews when you've got heaps of people on the server and people dying, all that kinds of stuff. Oh, cool question I saw. Someone said, can we get realistic beard growth for survivors? I think that's super cool. Like, when someone suggested that, and our concept artist, Sam, I don't even know if he's watching the stream, he drew up some stuff, and I was like, wow, that is, like, really cool. Don't know whether we can do it. I mean, it's technically possible. We could just do some kind of vertex animation thing. Don't know what we do for girls. Probably have to come up with something there. But I think it's cool. I'm just going to put that out there. I love that subtle type stuff. Like all those subtle, like intricate type stuff. Really awesome. Like that to me is DayZ. And it's not a list of features. It's all those subtle little things that build up together that make you feel the tension, that make you feel the survival aspect of it. It's not about the zombies. It's not about this feature or that feature. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing when they're looking at games. And it's what I noticed at E3. All these games advertising these amazing features, but you're like, what is the game about?
A few people have asked about Alta 4 basically taking people out of the game, and have you thought about making that a suicide, or basically just making that not to where it doesn't, people don't automatically disconnect and abuse that system of escaping from people?
I have been working on that this week.
That's something I actually experienced the other day. I was shooting someone through a window, and I didn't get, I didn't one-shot them, so they logged out, and I was just like, oh.
To give a bit of an overview, and this is a little exclusive for you, so what I've been working on this week is how to deal with that issue. I went through, for about 10 hours it took me to go through all the forum posts I could find, check on Reddit, 4chan, any threads that were still alive, and see what was happening. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to track people's logins and logouts. And then if they've been doing login and logout a lot, it will put a cooldown on them respawning back in. Now if you die, that won't count. But if you're doing the respawn to find a better spot, that will start to put a cooldown on you. And if you're hopping to another server, it will start to put a cooldown on you. And if you're found to be doing it a lot over a long period of history, it will start to punish you. Maybe even give you warnings and say your character will be killed if you keep doing it. So we'll need to put a lot of effort into that. But it's being developed on. That's what I'm doing this week.
Vector has to leave, and he asks, will DayZ be ready for the Arma 3 release?
Well, we don't know when the Arma release is going to be. I think the latest announcement was early next year or something like that. But I think that's unconfirmed. I haven't actually been keeping an eye on it. I think, personally, that DayZ needs to head in its own territory. The cool thing about BIS and its technologies, you've got Virtual Battlespace 2, awesome, amazing soldier training tool that's going in its own direction. You've got Take On Helicopters that added and bought a whole bunch of new stuff. You've got Ironfront out there doing its own thing, and Arma 2 and then Arma 3. So they all feed off each other, and I think that it would be cool to have something like DayZ in that mix as well. So it's kind of a difficult question to answer. I think that DayZ is so huge now that it goes in its own direction, and it pulls off other projects, but it essentially is big enough to be its own thing. Now, I saw a really good question in there before, and
I've seen many, and I keep losing them.
Really good questions. So I saw one before, I think was someone saying that, so they've just bought Arma 2, and they've just bought it to play DayZ. So would they have to pay for the standalone? That's a good question, and it's one that I talked a lot about with people in the forums. And I'm still a bit undecided, but obviously, there's no confirmation of standalone or anything like that yet as it is, so we're all just having hypothetical discussions. But if we did that, I think it would need to be everyone would pay for it. But I see that as kind of a challenge to the development, to put enough new functionality, enough extra content, enough fixing of bugs, and come up with this really polished, solid product. And then say, you can keep playing the mod, or you can pay €15 and buy this really polished, solid product. And I see that as a challenge to the development team. I don't really see any other way around it. I don't know
if Blue Rising said, in the standalone, if buildings are more intricate, will you add a barricade system?
Well, we've got to deal with the aspects that happen to the world. At the moment, we find that wire and sandbags and stuff like that cause issues. I want to push the project more in a direction more like Eve, so it's regionalized and you can kind of almost seamlessly go between the regions. That's kind of the ultimate, to try and make the world a bit more seamless. And that brings in construction type issues, barricade type issues. That's why I'd like to bring construction into a separate universe. So most of your construction and development would be done, say, underground, in your own instances and things like that, that other players can come into and shoot each other and all that kinds of stuff. So I think, I don't know, it's looking at barricading, definitely something I think we could look at, but it does need to be balanced with technical problems and really just carefully looked at. It's not just a cut and dry type thing.
This is a kind of a cool question, but when the standalone comes out, will you have a DayZ zombie campaign, i.e. having co-op campaign with an objective such as trying to make it to a certain location?
Could you just run that by me again?
whenever the standalone releases, I have to find it again, it's scrolling so fast. Will you think about adding a DayZ zombie campaign, such as having a co-op campaign with an objective, such as trying to make it to a certain location and surviving?
I think I'm not. Well, I am a huge. I like campaigns. But I think the players have to come up with this. That's what this is about. I don't think DayZ can compete with Project Zomboid. It can't compete with other things. The whole idea, the reason that DayZ's cool is because it picks one little thing, and it says, "I'm going to do that really well." If we start adding on all this other stuff, it creates noise in the game design and we start to lose the way. So I think, no, I think the challenge is on the development team to say, we are going to come up with the most awesome open world zombie survival experience there is. And we're not going to compromise, no matter what. No matter how much you scream, no matter how much it frustrates you, that is what we're going to do. And we are going to do it very well. DayZ's got the chance to do that more than anything else out there. So I think we have to capitalize on that. And that means I would like to see more of a narrative. So let's say you can explore what happened in the world. Where did this virus come from? Where am I? What's happened in the world? If you want, you can go around and, I don't know, collect samples or find old newspapers or read other people's diaries, that kinds of stuff. Absolutely. But I think having some kind of design storyline, no, I just don't think that's not what gamers have said they want out of DayZ. You know, they've really voted and said, this is what we want, this experience. Just take that, fix the darn bugs, and make it better.
I agree.
Polish.
Amen. So someone asked, this is something I was curious about because I had a horrible experience with this guy who owned a tent, and of course you could loot the tent, and I was trying to do that, but bad experience doesn't need to be explained. However, do you ever have plans to perhaps lock the tents and vehicles, and then you have to find an item to maybe lockpick them in the future?
I think adding intuitive complexity. So, for example, we don't explain how to do anything in the world, but people kind of figure it out. Like if you're hungry, you eat food, that kind of stuff. So I think having that kind of complexity and ramping that up is a good thing. So if you can do specific repairs on cars, maybe you can lock cars, and then maybe you can lock pick cars, maybe you can hotwire cars, that kind of stuff I'm supportive of, and I think that's cool. Locking tents, I'm a little bit more reluctant of. You can't really lock a tent.
Yeah, you can always cut through it.
I think tents their role will change. I really am very strong about this player shaping of the world. We need to give you something to do.
Speaking of
After
that, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off,
yeah,
but
that's cool.
building player forts or houses of some sort with your peers or people you might trust, do you plan on adding that in the future?
Yeah, look, I think that to me is the thing that I'm most excited about now. So you play EVE Online, right?
I've briefly played it. I played Ultima Online that had player housing.
Yeah, so like, well, for EVE Online's got its capital ships. So that's what everyone gravitates toward. They want to make these massive capital ships. To me, I think player constructed, say for argument's sake, like underground bases. I believe they could be to DayZ what capital ships are to EVE. And they could be something that could be developed over years. You know, we can come up with a really sexy, cool way of doing that. And I've got a couple of ideas, but I'll keep them pretty close to my chest because I want to verify that they actually work. But I really think that could be a very strong area of direction. That gives you your base of operations. You can kind of ignore it if you want and just be a lone wolf surviving in the wilderness.
And
Or you
sniping
can get
people.
this together and make this like Resident Evil Umbrella and Corporation stylized base, you know, over years, and then install some security system and just, you know, like people who've played maybe games like Evil Genius, I loved it, and XCOM, you know, where you were like defending your bases and stuff. That to me is just awesome.
Here's a question. Do you ever plan on going cross-console? Cross-platform, rather.
Look, cross-platform makes a lot of money. But I think it has to be nailed first. You know, I come from a background of making console games, and it's no picnic, especially with something like DayZ, you know, Arma. Armor, the original incantation of Armed Assault, which came after Operation Flashpoint, that went to the Xbox, and I think that was probably a pretty difficult exercise for Bohemia Interactive. So I think it's a possibility, but it's a while away, that's for sure, and it really depends on a lot of variables, who's developing it, all that kinds of stuff. Publishing deals are really complex, but you know, I'm not opposed to it as long as, and I'll put this huge caveat, I don't want to see, okay, we're going to do a console and iteration affecting the input choices and the UI and all that kinds of stuff. Skyrim, yeah. I don't want to, like, that is bad.
Someone just asked something, and do you plan on having more options to customize your characters? It's mainly female characters. I was going to play a female, but I played a male because I could customize it a little better, which is...
Yeah, look, it's another really important thing. It's obviously not something that's ever needed to be really supported by the Armor engine, so it's just not there. But I think the ability so we talked about players changing the world and saying that is a huge priority. A player's ability to change themselves, another huge priority. But I don't think we just add stuff in or adding stuff in sake. Like, here's a couple of things. Like, I thought it would be cool if when you loot a body, you get blood on your hands, that kinds of stuff, and maybe you could wash your hands to clear that blood. Maybe your character gets really unwashed and becomes obvious to other players. Adding all these little subtle cues that aren't forced would be awesome. As well as the usual things like being able to customize your character, maybe finding clothing, maybe changing default faces and changing your body type, all that kinds of stuff. I think would be cool. But the more that can be tied to the actual game mechanics, the better, in my opinion.
I've seen someone asked a few times, are you planning on adding the option to use your fists to fight?
Yeah, actually, we've run up our animations already. It's just I've been so focused on the performance, and we've had so many beta executables out there. We've just been focused on that. It was my intention to have that out with the normal melee system that I added in, but I just didn't get time. They're only going to be a weapon of last resort, and they'll only knock zombies down, they won't kill them.
Will you be adding the ability to grow your own food?
Oh, I'm glad that you asked that question, because I saw that and I was like, well, I want to answer that question. Okay, so this is what I was thinking of. I know I keep talking about underground structures. It's just because I love XCOM. I love this kind of construction stuff. So what I thought would be cool is, you could build like hydroponic space and grow your own food. Like, maybe you have to construct and set up lighting and all that. Imagine having like this dugout hole where you've tried to like rig up growing plants, all that kinds of stuff. Maybe you're foraging in the forest, all that kinds of stuff. I think that would be pretty cool. But yes, we're probably going to toy with little bits of that in the mod, like being able to forage the pumpkin patches you find around and things like that. So we'll start to have a play with that in the mod before it goes standalone.
Some of the questions that spawned from that, pretty funny. Anyway, what features do you want to implement in the game but are restricted by the Armor engine? That's an interesting question.
That's an interesting question. Look, a lot of people knock the Armor engine. It's crazy to me. Like, they really knock it. But I've seen inside it, and I have had the opportunity to work with the guys who made it. And these guys are geniuses. And I think it's actually quite an underrated engine. And I think there's huge, huge potential with it. So I think that, yes, there are aspects of Armor that limit it DayZ in many different ways. But the cool thing is, the system is so modular and so well designed that, making it standalone and going in there and changing stuff would really just open things up. So you only need to look at something like VBS2, the military variant. The stuff they do with that is amazing. Nothing short of amazing. So I think there's real strong potential to do stuff there. And the aspects that do limit what we want to do with Armor can be easily solved by pushing it standalone.
This is a question I have because I've played quite a few zombie games because I might be obsessed with zombies. But do you ever plan on adding different types of zombies beyond the ones that are already in the game, like maybe mutated zombies as well? Not outlandish ones like you'd find maybe in Left 4 Dead, but just some that are mildly mutated in some way.
I think like I want to get my brother involved and like properly and say to him, I want you to design me a virus that could actually happen and tell me what that does to the human body. And I think that would be very cool and actually produce a whole booklet on it and just like really put some serious thought into the narrative. No story, just narrative. And as part of that, when I was talking about that zombie life cycle before, that's what I'd like to see. So if you've got zombies that are malnutrition, that haven't been able to get food, they will move slower and they will have decay, other problems that you would expect of something that's not an animal that's not getting enough food, or walk differently, all that kinds of stuff. But ones that are healthy and have been getting lots of food, they will be a lot better, a lot more human in there, running, those kinds of things. And I think that kind of subtle difference that has plausibility to it, that is something that personally interests me a lot more than, say, a more stylized rendition like Left 4 Dead. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with Left 4 Dead. I think it's great at what it does, but I would like to see DayZ be the serious look at the zombie genre.
Now I know you touched on customization of your character and how that is important for the future. Some people were saying that you used to be able to find clothes in the game and no longer have people found them, so I'm assuming they've been removed. I didn't play whenever they were in the game, perhaps. I just started a couple weeks ago, roughly, so...
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
clothes are a bit of a hack at the moment. It sort of draws on that question that someone had before about, limitations of the Arma engine. So Arma's not really designed to swap in and out models and assets, It's designed to do what it does, and it does it very well. So you start a mission as a soldier, you go and you do your stuff, kill an enemy, and you get out. And DayZ has taken it and doing this other whole crazy thing with it. So what I would love to see is more involvement with the character and the environment. So if it's raining and you're wearing a jacket, then you get a benefit from it. But maybe the jacket you find is bright yellow, so you stand out more. So this is adding this whole stubble tension and connection with the environment. It's like when I was playing Skyrim, I loved to wear the woodland fur and stuff. And then I was like, I should be wearing that, because it's cold. And I'd be up in the snow and I'd be like, this is really awesome. But then I realized it had no effect on my character and I felt kind of gutted. So I think I'd really like to see that clothing, like a proper clothing system in. But that will require, again, a lot of design work and a lot of discussion with players. I think probably I'll start a whole thread devoted to this. Maybe there'll be, maybe even I'll start one on Reddit or something. We can have a real structured discussion about it. Because I think there's a lot of thinking that needs to happen around that. But I think that player construction could be a huge element of DayZ that sort of grows from where it is now.
Now, a question I had, and apparently this has been sort of talked about already in releases, but in the future, do you plan on adding a fatigue system? And if you do, how are you going to make that work with how fast some of these zombies are? Will they also experience a similar fatigue system?
I think at the moment Arma has sort of a very basic fatigue system. So if you run a lot, your aim is terrible, that kinds of stuff. I really like what Far Cry did with things like malaria and stuff like that. I would love to see the survival aspects of the game expanded. Probably a bit more so than necessarily a pure fatigue system. I think that, again, looking at specific systems or specific mechanics makes me a bit nervous. That's why when I see someone portraying a list of features, I get a bit nervous as well. It's all about the intention, the overall tension that's created. That is what's really important, and that is what I think DayZ does well. It's a collection of bad features and mechanics that together create an awesome tension. And I think there's a lot of people who are missing that. Developers, publishers, they just see DayZ's been successful because of permadeath. It's not like that. It's these bad features that have that have that combine really well. And I've got totally lost with that question. Did I actually answer it?
I think so. So this is a kind of a different question, but do you plan on adding some sort of skill system into the game, like skinning and fishing, and because it is definitely realistic to be able to fish and to be able to skin an animal, and just various things like that.
Absolutely. I guess there's two parts to that. One is the skills. I think that I got a little bit lost early in the development, and I thought I really want to add like skill points and talent points and all that kinds of stuff. And I was talking to Marek Spaniel, who's the CEO of Bohemia Interactive, and he was like, "Why? Why do that?" And he was like, "If you're good at something, you should be." And in real life, you should be good at it in game. So the game should allow you to support, things you like and things you do. So I think we add the ability to do this kinds of stuff, but I don't think we should restrict players to skills. I think that's a cool part of the DayZ experiment. So I think having it so that people can skin, and then use those skins somehow, craft stuff, absolutely agree, completely agree. Adding that kind of complexity, so long as it's intuitive and makes sense, then I think that's fantastic.
And another question that was asked that I am also curious about is, do you plan on adding other animals into the game, such as bears and wolves, and adding that sort of dangerous element to the environment that's not even infected / zombies?
Yeah, look, like I said, I answered this question at rest, I think, as well. Like, it's been quite a hot topic. I'm really interested in the survival parts of this. The zombies are great because they provide a context and an antagonist. They add an element to the experience of tension, of fear, and all that. But really, the heart of it is the survival. And that is where expanding the intuitive range of infections and ailments you can experience, adding in fear and danger from animals, the environment of cold, blizzards, all those kinds of things. That is going to be the essence of the growth of DayZ, and that is going to be what keeps people coming back.
And that would go along with having companions, like if you could have like a dog companion with you as well. That's certainly going to be an interesting, if you guys manage to move that way in the future, that would be an interesting element.
Yeah, well, I've been working on the dogs for a while when I have spare time. There's a collision issue problem at the moment. They don't run up and down hills for some reason. The ACR pack, Army of the Czech Republic, is being released soon, I think, for Arma 2. I'm not sure when it's announced or that. But it's really awesome. And it has dog stuff and things like that in it. Like, I'd really encourage people to take a look at that when it comes out. So I'm going to see how that's implemented and get some ideas about how we can do that stuff in DayZ. But I think dogs would be a really cool addition, and I think it would be really cool to see how they play out, particularly to support. I'm talking about a lot of support for group play. It would be awesome to add some more support for those who want to solo or maybe go around in small groups.
Will you be adding some sort of aging in the game, basically based on how long you've survived on your character?
Well, I think that beard idea was awesome. Well, my Kiwi accent probably came out really strong there. When I said beard. I've got a fly on my screen. Yeah, I think so. Again, the survival stuff is really important. I think having aging might be a little bit much to look at least initially, but definitely being able to add in so you can tell how veteran someone is would be really cool. I like the beard thing, but I have no idea how I'd implement it, and other than looking at some kind of vertex animation.
You could do that for girls too. Give them a beard. I'm just kidding.
Well, they get a bit of flack on the forums for that. I'm sure we can other mechanics, and things don't necessarily even need to be balanced, and I think that's a key part of DayZ is the world is against you, and things are unfair, and not all characters are created equal, and I think we stick with that.
What about adding no one said it, but what about adding a bounty system to where you know someone killed you, you know their name, and you really want them dead?
I would much rather see me add tools so that players can do the stuff in the world. Same applies with currency. what I would prefer to do is add a whole bunch of nonsense items and then have the players decide which nonsense items they want to use for currency and then come up with their own systems. Maybe different servers have different currencies. Like, that is... I want to see that develop. I want to just create this canvas and then say to the players, right, I've put in a narrative. I've told you why the world has gone to poo like it has. I've given you tools to do this, this, and this. You know, what do you guys want to do? So that hopefully that turns players more into designers and they can actually go in there and develop this world they want to make.
Will you implement a weapon customization system?
I'm quite interested in durability. That's a biggie. I guess being able to craft elements of weapons, so you find a silencer, putting the silencer on a weapon, adding different sights, that kind of stuff would be cool, and that's in Arma 3. But again, there's a lot of technology that needs to be put in around that. That's the kind of thing that would need to be looked at for a standalone. And again, the focus has to be on the basic core stuff before we did that.
Just a few more questions and we'll end the stream in a few minutes. So if you want to pick some out that you've seen in there. Oh, that's a good one. I like this one. Do you plan on adding traps? That would be certainly fun.
Oh, traps. Bear traps are in game right now. And they break your legs when you run over them.
What about like hanging traps that they capture your foot and then you're hanging in the air? Or just things similar like that, just silly ones. Nets?
Yeah, look, I think traps are an awesome chance to develop crafting stuff, which is why I put started putting the traps in as it was. So, like when I was in the army, we used to spend a lot of time setting up trip flares, and actually that was one of my funnest jobs to do. Was go out and place every time you'd stop, and you'd set up they call it a harbour location, so the place you're stopping for the night. You would go out and you'd place trip flares on the expected areas the enemy could come from. So sometimes you'd craft up these cool things, like you'd wrap the trip flare in a certain way. You would set this up, and in real life sometimes you'd even use like grenades and improvised booby traps and stuff like that. So I think I'd like to see that kind of stuff, and that would be pretty awesome.
I've seen a ton of people ask this. Can you talk about the next patch and perhaps whenever it is going to get released?
Well, it was going to be this week, but I'm just really busy with all the setup and trying to get things sorted and put some more structure around things, because it's so huge now. And there's so many people helping out, volunteering, guys doing awesome work on the ticket management system for support. The guys have rolled out the new forums, so it's trying to get a handle on all that is really difficult. So I think it's just delayed the patch, unfortunately. It's Friday now, so I'm not going to get it out before this weekend. Not a good idea to release an update on a Friday. We'll probably run a closed test first, and that will be run on one server, and we'll tell people they can come in, they can test it out, because we're going to have quite a few performance optimizations again in it, because we really want to break that like 150 or 200 concurrent on one server player mark. That's kind of a bit of a goal. So we're just going to keep optimizing until we can hit that.
And what about the features in that patch?
Features. Probably not a lot of feature development. Again, it'll be optimizations, trying to tidy up the zombies and how they function. I fixed the audibility so that the audibility, they're not as deaf as they are in the current patch, particularly when you fire a weapon, so they're sort of returned to normal there. And yeah, then it's just going to be tidying, fixing things up like vehicles, so we can get helicopters back in. Maybe it's not quite as exciting as like adding a whole bunch of features, but I just think it's at a stage now where we just focus on fixing it and polishing it up a bit more in preparation to do something a bit more ambitious.
And if you see anything in there that you want to pick out, one last question.
And there's just people posting questions like crazy.
I know it's going so fast.
Maybe I could just really rapidly see if I could answer a few, like give myself 5 seconds. Okay, so sanity system. I don't want to put too much structure around what players do. I've looked at a couple of ideas, but they make me a bit nervous because I don't want to restrict people's player style. Better anti-cheat program. Look, I honestly think BattleEye does a pretty bang-up job. That we're dealing with the architecture is designed to work in a certain way, and it does it very well for armor, and we need to go in another direction, and it is going in that direction, but it's going to take some time, and it's going to be a constant battle. Have I thought about allowing friends spawn near a party? Yes, I have. I want to maintain the disorientation. Maybe with underground structures, we could have it so that you could set your clan respawn base, but still have some kind of penalty apply when you die. Someone's asked about hunting bow. I'd love to put a hunting bow in. Would require some animation, a little bit more work on how the crossbow works, but that could be done. Did you see anything else?
I just got in a truck.
You did. That's impressive.
Let me fix the audio real fast.
So for the players, I would like to see you guys make the trading system. What I need to do is add the tools so that you can see how it works. Maybe we could put something like that into the website as well. We'll do some thinking about that.
I have seen a few people mention the performance loss when they're in the big cities, especially Cherno.
Yeah, look, BIS are doing fantastic work with the latest updates. For those playing 1.62, the latest release candidate, I think, beta or something out. It's got a little bit confusing because there's been a lot of releases. The performance is really starting to get better. So it's really over to me to use some of the new commands and command changes to keep improving the performance. And we're going to be able to. Look, we've already increased the large number of servers from 50 slots to 100 slots. That's huge. Like, 100 people running around Cherno is kind of scary. So I think we're going to be able to really push this kind of stuff even further and just keep improving. Think of something to help us defend trading zones. Well, that's where I think player construction could be better, having some kind of specially constructed Iron Forge style underground trading city that's maintained by a large group of players. That to me is far more exciting than me making some kind of dedicated safe zone. Someone wants a noose, they want to hang people. Nice. Watching Deadwood lately, the TV series. Really like it. Maybe I'll get some ideas from that.
That means you'd have to knock them out and drag them.
There's a lot of cool stuff. Someone's singing.
Wow.
Yeah, nice. Okay, did I ever get a chance to deal with the Alt F4? I think I talked about it.
Yeah, the Alt F4. But you can say it again if you want, because a lot of people have been asking.
It's been a key focus. I spent like 10 hours reading through the forums, drove myself completely bonkers, went through Reddit. So I've been working on that. Viper, who's been running around helping you in game, he's been helping me with it as well. We're going to have something in the next update. It'll probably be ready for a closed test maybe over the weekend or early next week, and we'll post on the forums and say people can join and give us a hand to test it. Oh, blood trails and on the ground if you're bleeding. I actually run up a test of this a while ago, but it was causing performance issues. But I like it's kind of a cool thing. All these little things, we'll play with, we'll tie with. It's like I had it so that when you ate a can, it actually dropped a can in real life. I added that in, but it caused terrible performance issues. So we try stuff out, we see how it works, and then maybe we cut it out later. Like you've got to balance the benefit versus the cost of stuff.
My driving is horrible. This is probably terrifying to watch.
It is a little bit terrifying. Okay, someone just said players being able to build bases spawn gear. How do you see this affecting the permadeath? Now that is a good point, and I touched on it briefly. I don't think we should be scared away by design ideas that throw up massive design problems. And that's part of the whole DayZ thing. I looked at a lot of the things early on, we're like, oh wow, this is, we we won't do that because it creates this massive problem. No, that's just a challenge. So we need to look at that and say, how does this big base building concept? And I think we just sit down, lock a bunch of smart guys in a room for a week and say, wow.
You're watching. No. Oh my God. Okay, I'm done.
Lessons, maybe. Maybe we should get a motorbike.
That was horrible. I'm making him drive now.
So bad I kind of forgotten what I was talking about.
Did you see the part where I hit the wall? That's even worse.
Someone said female zombies. Yeah, absolutely. It's mainly just been an animation issue. Is the reason they're not in there at the moment. My little sister has been playing DayZ quite a lot, and she's not that little. She's like 22 or 23 or something. So, but she's still my little sister. So, I like adding in all the stuff that she thinks is cool too. Someone said about the new zombie textures. I did see that. I was about to get in touch and see if the guy would be okay me putting them in. I need to do that. Actually, Matt, you should add that to the list, bro. The zombie blood textures. So yeah, look, it's added to the list. It's done. Well, kind of. Someone's asked about the JSRS sound mod. Very cool mod. Very popular, and a little bit of a shout out to all those people with Arma 2. You should really get out there and try some of the other mods. They're really awesome. The sound mod alters audibility levels, so that's why we can't enable sound mods. It screws with the DayZ thing. Did we want to touch on the World War Z thing?
If you want to touch on that, you can wrap up with talking about the War Z again, because a lot of people weren't in the stream whenever it first started.
Yes.
And they've been asking that like every 2 seconds, so.
They have, and I think you must have gone on Reddit because your stream numbers keep going up in the last couple of minutes. Okay, I need to think about this. So the first thing I'd preface is that people announce a lot of stuff. Don't get too excited. Don't get too sad or depressed about things that are announced. You know, like what matters is what comes out, what gets released. So I think for me, I think that competition in this kind of genre is really important. It's very good for consumers and gamers. You know, for this, it's good for the project because it inspires DayZ to happen. Not, I wouldn't say fast, but with a sense of urgency and to be done properly. So I think in that sense it's good, but I guess it all comes down to, is the list of stuff, is that a list of features or is that a list of promises? If it's a list of promises, then it's a bit of a bad move because, well, you know, those things are hard, and I know they're hard because we've been trying to do them. So, and we kind of got something playable out there with, like, you know, 700,000 people. So they're not easy. If it's a list of features, then that's pretty awesome. Although, for me, I'm far more into the really subtle survival type aspects, and that is the area I want to see grow. The player interaction, the player creation, not just this sort of run and gun, running around. You know, like I think Left 4 Dead does that brilliantly. So why do that again? Can people tell me in the stream if have I answered that question? I kind of rambled on.
Now, a lot of these questions that people are asking right now, you've already answered, and this will be uploaded to YouTube and put on the fpsguru.com site, and you will be able to go back and watch this whole stream again and basically get the answers to a lot of these.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to re-ask them over and over again.
About War Z as well is that, you know, I think people shouldn't either get too excited or too angry or anything like that over it. It's still too early days. Someone's made a press release and posted a few pictures, and I think that it's hard, very hard. Like I would not want to be in their kind of shoes because, you know, I looked at their IGN interview and it was kind of unfortunate that basically the interviewer spent all the time comparing it to DayZ. That's really hard. Like if you're a designer and you go in to talk about your game that you have made, and then all someone does is like, so how is this like with DayZ? I know the regular Arma players get kind of frustrated when
So
like people.
basically, you're like World of Warcraft now. People are comparing to you. Just like MMOs, they compare to WoW all the time. That frustrates a lot of people, and I can certainly understand that. But
And I think that will be very hard for designers. So I said on the forums that I don't envy them in that sense, because even if DayZ does some things poorly, people go, well, they were the first, they're a mod, etc. So it's always harder to be that new kid on the block. But I just it's it's way too early to say anything, really at all. It's a couple of concept shots and a press release. I mean, we don't do that in DayZ. I will either speculate in order to ask people about ideas and see what works, or we will just announce stuff in patch notes. And I like that because that means that instead of you having to figure out is this going to be cool or is that going to be cool or are they going to be able to deliver it, you just go play it and say did they get it right or didn't they? And then you tell me. You send me abusive email messages or tell me I'm terrible on Reddit and I cry and change it.
I think we'll wrap it up there. You've answered a ton of questions, and like I said, everybody can find the questions. A lot of them they're still asking. Oh, I do want to ask this one. Sorry, real quick. Environment. Besides raining, do you plan on adding like natural disasters to the game?
Ooh, natural disasters. There's obviously a lot of technical limitations involved with that. The Arma system does have some pretty cool weather stuff in it. Particularly, coming forward, if you play Take on Helicopters, you can see the new cloud system and stuff like that. So, sorry, I just saw someone posted, who should I contact if I'm stuck in a wall? Try walking to the edge of the wall and pushing the V character, which jumps you, makes you do like how do you describe it? Someone type it in chat. Like a vault.
A hurdle, yeah.
You should get out of the building by doing that. Anyway, I got totally distracted there. Sorry, it's just real funny because you typing. So, I'm huge on the weather effect because I do a lot of mountaineering, so I love like the snow and the fear of are you cold enough or are you too cold and all that kind of stuff. So I would love to see heaps more of that stuff. But there's huge technical limitations around it that we need to come over. So I think we just have to take baby steps. We start with rain, wind, and then we see how we go. And that's what is cool about this whole Minecraft type concept. If we can get the standalone going, then we can release and tidy up exactly what DayZ's now, tidy it up, make it work awesomely with a good inventory system. And then that funds, hopefully the sales from that funds the development of more exciting and ambitious stuff.
I certainly would probably end up crying if I logged in and saw like a tornado or something. A fire.
I'm just naturally distrusting of server-generated events. I want to see as much stuff as possible player-driven, like everything: currency, trading zones, the construction of cities, everything. That stuff should all be player-driven, and I think if we can achieve that. There's not many other games that have done that. That's the holy grail for me. Once we've done that, once we've achieved that and the players are doing it, like I want to log in one day and see that the players have come up with their own currency system based on some type of item in game or something. That to me is like I'll log in and go, yay, I'm gonna retire and become a hip.
Well, I guess we better get started on that. Okay, so I think that's good. You answered a lot of questions, including ones about expanding and gear and customization. So everybody go to fpsguru.com. This will be uploaded probably in the next couple days. And thank you so much, Rocket, for taking the time to interview. And thank you, Robert, for taking the time to go in-game and play the game with me.
Yeah, and sorry to people, it took us a while to get started. I've just done a full day of busy stuff, and our builds are all in different states, but we got there in the end. So.
But it turned out great. It turned out great. We got everything settled, and the server finally corrected on my end for streaming. Don't forget to follow the stream. There will be more interviews on this one, as well as MMORPG.com stream. And Good night, everyone.
Bye.